people were responding to the authentic, real, we never reheat. That's the way it has to be.
You go to Hard Truth and it's like, oh, holy, like this is the real deal.
It's made up of people who really love what they do, love the other people in the industry, and want to help people out.
Bourbon and barbecue content is awesome. How have you guys seen that shift over the last decade? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Mark your calendar, we're headed down to Brown County on July 26th for Hard Truth Bourbon and Barbecue Festival. Get ready for a smoky, savory, and spirited weekend at Hard Truth in Brown County. Join me at Hard Truth Distilling Co. the weekend of July 25th and 26th for an unforgettable celebration of bourbon, barbecue, and good times. We've got live music rocking from 9 until noon with 4 different acts, bourbon and barbecue tastings and pairings, bourbon blending and cocktail crafting classes, as well as a VIP bourbon and cigar lounge. They also have interactive competitions and outdoor activities, bourbon barrel roll races, barbecue toss and cornhole tournaments, $10 entry for a $300 prize. If you're a good cornhole player, hit me up, let's join up. And they have axe throwing as well. Me and my team are going to be down there, and I will be releasing a full weekend itinerary for Nashville/Brown County that is guaranteed to be a great time. Tickets for the Hard Truth Bourbon and Barbecue Fest start at $10 for general admission. That gets you entry in the festival, the live music, and pay-as-you-go food and drink. For $35, you can get the barbecue sampler pass, tastings from all the barbecue competitors, or for $75, you can get the VIP ticket where you get VIP lounge access, premium bourbon tastings, and a guided distillery tour by master distiller Bryan Smith, previous guest of the show. I will see y'all in Brown County the weekend of July 25th and 26th. Now let's get into the episode. Today I have 2 spectacular guests. First up, Dave White, the founder of Great White Smoke Barbecue Company, a championship-winning pitmaster, and he's based down in Bloomington, Indiana. Beyond the beef, Dave's heart is in community service, and he's the driving force behind Hoosiers with Hearts, a nonprofit delivering meals and comfort to people in crisis. And I'm joined by a familiar face, Bryan Smith, the master distiller and partner at Hard Truth Distilling Co. down in Nashville. You might remember Bryan from our episode, oh man, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8, 9 months ago. I don't even know at this point. Talk about all the fun stuff that's happening down in Nashville, Indiana. Later here in June, as well as in July, that we're going to get to. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Nate.
Yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here, buddy.
Before we started recording, we were talking about just makers of like Indiana craftsmen, like, you know, working together, which is cool. And like the circle of people interested in bourbon and the circle of people interested in barbecue has a lot of overlap. So I'm really excited to dive into this and talk about how kind of all 3 of us are collabing later in July. So first, Dave, this story starts with you. We're going to talk about like, how did you get into smoking meats?
It's a wild story, man. How long do we got?
Because we got 55 minutes, so let's hear it.
I was a horticulture major, so landscape, that was my life from the time I was in high school till I was almost 30. The short version is my son and wife had a tough last trimester pregnancy. We're both hospitalized for about a month. So I literally went to a parking lot to sell like cookies and wristbands. No joke. And they offered to let us do a cookout, hamburgers, hot dogs with this Coke trailer. I'm like, I'll let it rip because I love to cook. I mean, just backyard fun. And we took Jessica's crock pot pulled pork. So we went up there with no expectations, sold out, got invited back. The store upped the ante. They wanted to give us some ribs. A cousin let me borrow a smoker. At that point, that was the first smoker I'd ever fired. So a lot of YouTube, right?
The first smoker you ever get to fire up is you're in the parking lot cooking for people.
In the middle of it, dude. Well, and it was like night before prep, and then I did my homework, so I went at it as educated as I could, and it was literally baptism with fire. So, and I mean that was it, dude. The beginning was a lot of burnt meat, a lot of YouTube videos, trial and error, up and down, but overall the food in that parking lot was such a success that week by week and PTO day by PTO day, I got closer and closer to the cliff, man, and finally jumped. And,
what was the final domino that put you over the edge?
Out of paid time off and a big event at IU. Yeah, it really was. And it was put in your notice or whatever,
And what was the feedback you were getting? Yeah. I think a lot of times, you were past 30 when you went full time on it?
Yeah.
You had a you had a family, like a wife and son?
Had a son. We had just got home from Riley. He was born, and he had disability, Down syndrome, but the birth was tough. His stats, he was about a month early. So, dude, the long and short is 35 days I was making rounds at 2 hospitals. Milk from her to him, back to her, because they gave her some sort of infection, so she was down too. So no work for a month, man. I mean, it just ripped into our savings, and I was literally just trying to like recoup. The food blew up, man, and people kept coming and saying, man, we could smell you down the street. You smell great. The smoke smells great. And one day I just said, great white smoke, and somebody's like, that's it. So I took an old camper, gutted it back to the frame. I mean, it was a 78 Starcraft. Built a cabin right back up on that same frame, and it took me about a year to get the paperwork. At that time, we were the 3rd food truck in Bloomington, and it was really the Wild West. It was before all the modern day ordinances.
What year is this?
2013, we were building it. It went to its first event September of that year. We launched on the streets, paper legal, in 2014. Yeah, on the streets of Bloomington. And then the rest is history, man.
Man. And Bryan, you know a thing or two about like the craft that goes into whether it's cooking or, making good bourbon. Like how wild is that to show up at an event and okay, now we're like cooking on a smoker. Like I can figure this out.
So first of all, I love hearing the story. It's really inspiring. There's something that I've really never talked much about, which is right before I started with my project, I actually was looking at a food truck in Bloomington. So right around that same time, 13, 14, I've actually got this little packet at home of all kinds of things. It wasn't barbecue, but different ideas. But I know what you're talking about because I called about all the regulations and all that stuff. But what I love about barbecue and what I love about what you do, Dave, is I grew up in Evansville, and really the best barbecue that I could get as a kid was in parking lots with guys just like Dave raising money for different causes, whether it was youth, soccer, or somebody was ill or whatever. So my dad and his buddies, they'd set up at the Thornton's parking lot. And I mean, some of those pitmasters down there, they never had brick and mortar, but I mean, I still think about that food.
And it's like they could sell out before noon. It's like they they do the whole thing, get it rolling, but it's like, okay, we're going to start selling at 10:30, and it's like an hour and a half later, it's sorry, like we're out of it. It's so cool.
Well, and a lot of that stuff too that I for the fundraising was like, whole slabs of ribs, whole chickens, whole butts, so you're buying it, then you're taking it home to your family and making the sides and doing all the thing. But it's a great way to bring community together. That's a great story, Dave. I love it.
And I think that going from kind of like side gig, like we have to make some extra money, to, okay, now it's official and you have like all your paperwork, to like, did I read that you have over 100 competition wins?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
we quit counting, honestly.
But it's like, I think how many guys in any community, whether it's Evansville or Northern Indiana or Bloomington or wherever, like cook really good fundraiser ribs, but never like, and everyone's like, oh man, you should put these in a contest. And they never actually like go and do that. Like what was again, I'm going to use a cliche term, but what was the domino that fell that got you to start competing?
I think our first on the street gig was Little 500 in 2014. Big Red Liquors, Coglesier. I forgot to say his last name. I just butchered it, I'm sure. Matt.
Coglazer.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, Matt. He gave us a spot in the parking lot.
Big Red Liquors gave Great White Smoke.
Yeah, we pulled up in front of that huge building across the street. I can't remember the name of it. They're on College Avenue. The Chamber of Commerce came up, and they had this cook-off. They were in their second year. It's like their open briefcase. All the members bring a booth to the fairgrounds. And then the 8 barbecue places all competed for like city rights. And there was a world champ, a KCBS world champ, Bill Magerland from Thunderhog. Just a stud. I mean, dude's one of the GOATs for sure. Yeah. In 14, we actually won the People's Choice with my wife's pasta salad. So it was a side dish.
I mean,
side dishes are important.
Yeah, first walk ever. And so I'm hooked. The next year in 15, we went back, ran the table, beat Bill, won a grand championship, and dude, I mean, it was a hook, line, and sinker. He got us in a KCBS event that year.
Wait, you beat him, and then he gets you into...
Dude, the barbecue family and brotherhood, I don't know, what it's like with the bourbon community, but like, I've never been a part of anything. I played sports my whole life. And to have somebody that you're actively trying to beat on that field, and say you forgot something, if it's in the trailer, they're going to give it to you straight up.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's awesome. Is it similar in the bourbon space?
Very similar. You know, the world of American whiskey, whether it's bourbon, rye, whatever, there's a very small number of human beings responsible for all that whiskey. And there always has been historically. You know, there's been this rising tides kind of mentality, but you know, there's you can go back to like the fires at Heaven Hill, and you know, they lost all these barrels and they were going to go out of business, and so all these big heritage distilleries donated barrels to them to keep their bottles full, and then help them to save strains of yeast. I'll never forget, I got to meet Bill Samuels Jr. from Maker's Mark. He said to us, you know, he gave us all this information, was so helpful, and then he said, you know, if I can help you all, you know, getting started making better whiskey, it helps everyone in American whiskey space. So it's kind of like we're building this brand of American whiskey to take to the world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help anybody if you're making crappy whiskey.
And it's like, let's say your first foray into American whiskey is not a good one. Then it's like, I'm never, whether it's the most expensive, the cheapest, whatever it is, it's like, that's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like one bottle, one sip could make their judgment on the entire space.
Yes.
That makes sense.
It does. And you know, I'll say also, probably like in your world, it's also made up of some really great people. You know, on top of kind of the general sense of it, really it's made up of people who really love what they do, love the other people in the industry, and want to help people out.
I love that. And we know that, like, I mean, from those first conversations you all had, like, you guys have grown all across the country, done amazing things. Our great partner of us here, which we love having you back on the show. Dave, give us a perspective of, like, from, you know, winning that first contest, a singular food truck, to like the magnitude of Great White Smoke today.
You know, in those early days, I think I thought that a restaurant was the top of the hill, and that's what we wanted. And we had a couple opportunities. We ran 2 restaurants from early 17 to 19. It's a wild story. My son had some medical stuff, so it was up and down. And dude, I got out of the restaurants, finalized all our contracts right before COVID hit. So we backed out, and I honestly, I'm going to be honest, man. I love barbecue, but the business side of it's a little tough. When we cater, sometimes we get a little pushback on the price, and I always tell people I'll never be the cheapest, but I can promise if you're going apples for apples, after you have the food, you'll see the quality. You know, you're not coming after Cracker Barrel, no disrespect, but everything is cooked. I mean, the macaroni and cheese, dude, the sauce is from scratch, everything. So I thought that was the top of the hill, when really I think that catering has been great for us, and the competition stuff, and it's led to the other things.
Yeah. So you had one restaurant space?
We had 2.
You had 2 spaces.
Yeah.
And was that hard to then be like, hey, this just isn't right for, like, that's not what we want to do? And like, how did that perspective change for you?
Well, I took it really hard, and I guess that was the point I was kind of dancing around there, was I had got to where I thought we needed to be, and now I'm off-site with food trucks. I'm out at a catering event, and I come into the restaurant, and somebody that I'm paying an hourly rate, I think you know where I'm going, the steam table's turned up. I got beef jerky going out the window, and somebody from Connecticut, that was their one shot to get us.
Like, especially in something that's like such a craftsman's like thing, you know, like, I don't know. I would love to know, when you were operating a restaurant, like, what time do you have to be in? Are the smokers always running?
Is brutal. And that was kind of part of it too, was that I was working 20 hours a day. No joke. 4 hours of sleep a night, because we were doing everything stick burner at that point. Now we've got big gravity feds that they run on charcoal, but they've got a draft machine, so you don't have to worry about it. But back then, it was that way, man. So I had told my wife, she had been home with my kid. I'm like, I think your world needs to get a little bigger. She was a Kelly School grad.
Oh, yeah.
So she went back into corporate world with Sam's Club, got a great job. I started hanging out with the kids, was doing a little bit of competing. And in 2020, we got our first national sponsorship from Royal Oak Charcoal. That relationship, dude, I'm telling you, if you dive into that arena as a fan, and you look at the members of Team Royal Oak. They have about 100 sponsored teams. And, dude, it's the best of the best. I just couldn't believe we got the call at that point. When you're that close to it, I don't think you realize where you're at in the game.
Well, can you explain that to us? Like, I don't like how that works. So they come on, like, yeah, we want you to be a competitor for us?
At that point, they had an application process every year. So you applied, and it would be thousands of teams applying. They would look into your socials, all your numbers, and then that's how they picked their teams.
Wait, so they pick it not based on the quality of your barbecue?
I think it's a cumulative. They had some kind of score system built in, and you had to have wins, you had to have personality, and you had to like mirror their values, in a way. And that opened so many doors. The guys on those teams, now we got rub sponsors, spice sponsors. So when I was literally trying to back out of barbecue, those kind of companies and competition grabbed me and pulled me back in.
Like you were done. Like when you said you were closing the restaurant, you're like, nah, this isn't for us.
The work was just killing me, and I'm the time away from my wife and kid, and watching her be, she was a great mom, but she's a awesome worker, dude. So she was just wanting that, and she never asked for it, but I could just tell. And I was so sick of defending our product to tightwads over, quality and price that I was ready to back out.
Even when you have like wins, like you've won, like this is award-winning barbecue. Yeah. People were still coming in, and it's like,
and it was still pretty early. I mean, to their defense, even though they should be defenseless, I mean, it wasn't like we were beating down world championships then. The family and barbecue, same way. Like I teach classes now every year, and it's because I want the areas that I come out of to have bangers in it. Because if you don't beat somebody, then who are you really? So it's about making the whole stronger.
So I want to like dive just a little bit into this. Take us to the moment. Mm-hmm. So you're like, I'm over this. I'm done. Like your wife's going back to work. Screw barbecue. It sucks. Yeah. And you get a call or an email. What's the?
Yeah, it was the Royal Oak. You've been selected, and so that fired me up to do more content because you have to do. Once you're in contract with them, you need to do some content stuff. You have like X amount of posts per month, whatever. So it pulled me in. And then I started doing more organizing of events locally to try to help because after COVID, events just started dropping out.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I got into organizing was I had a grip on the system. It was just throwing a party past that to go with the system. Yeah.
And somewhere along this journey, you both get involved with World Food Championship.
Yeah.
Indiana gets World Food Championship back in 2024, right? Mm-hmm. And how did Hard Truth get tied into World Food Championship?
We had a connection through someone who was working for us out of St. Louis that knew some of the folks that were responsible for it. And I think they were looking for some partners that were outside of the food space. And so, here we are, we're making farmer to bottle, grain to glass whiskey, not an hour away from the where it was going to be held. So it was a no-brainer. Again, it was one of those kind of moments where, we wanted to be there, they wanted us there. So it was perfect.
Yeah. And then Dave, how did you guys get tied into World Food Championship?
Well, we had been doing KCBS, and when it
for those that don't know, what is KCBS?
Kansas City Barbecue Society.
Is that like the sauce?
It's a sanctioning body, so it's kind of like NBA.
Oh, okay.
So they're the ones, they've got their rules, and you have to be a judge through them. There's a bunch of other sanctioning bodies, but KCBS is probably the oldest.
Kansas City's a big barbecue hub in the United States, right?
Yeah, we do they have the American Royal there every year, which is the World Series of barbecue. It's about 900 teams in the Kansas Speedway's infield.
No way.
It's massive. Yeah, World Series, and then if you win categories there, it's a world champion. Because when we get asked that all the time, you two-time world champ. How do you measure that? Where do you win them?
And you won it in Kansas City?
So with James Grubbs at the helm with his sausage, I can only take credit for helping get it in the box cleanly. But James from Netflix, who's going to be joining us at Hard Truth in July, he put us on the podium, Great White Smoke, current world sausage champion.
Awesome. The world's. This is the first time we've ever had a world sausage championship in the studio. Holy smokes. Wait, so how did you get connected to James Grubb?
So it's that barbecue family. Grubbs lives outside of Atlanta, and we saw him on the show, and we were going to cook a show in Nashville, and there was a rub guy that was making rubs that was hooking James up. he hooked us up. We talked on the phone a couple times. I invited him to sit in with us at a cook in Nashville because he's a great cook, but he had never done competition.
Nashville,
Tennessee. Sorry, yeah.
all right.
For that
Fine, whatever.
yeah. They got a couple big shows down there. I mean, it's and there was a TV show that was going on that we weren't in it, but we were guests of Royal Oak. So we all met and mingled at that thing. And
This is interesting. Okay, so Bryan, how long have you been in the bourbon space?
Since 2015.
Okay, so 10 years there, 12 years in kind of the barbecue space.
yeah, I mean, we were hitting our head. I've seen that where we broke out at the same time, dude. And now we're crushing them
Let's go.
at the same time.
Yes, sir. The interesting piece about both of these is over the last decade, the rise in content and like creators and influencers in both spaces has kind of been on the rise. Like the Fred Minnick of the world, right? And like all these barbecue. You were just showing me the Argentinian
Alfregoni.
Like,
Alfregoni, Team Royal Oak.
hey,
Yeah.
there you go.
As family.
But that's interesting to see like the rise of, and obviously there's like creators in all these spaces. But I think specifically for like, I don't know, guys 25 to 45 or 55, like bourbon and barbecue content is awesome. How have you guys seen that shift over the last decade?
Obviously, it's a very visual platform, right? What taps into your most primal, lizard brain more than things on fire, right? Meat sizzling, wood burning, corn, like crops being grown. I mean, visually, both of the contents are really, really, really engaging. So I think it's a matter of kind of just like the best way to make great barbecue and great whiskey is to kind of get the right ingredients and let it kind of get out of its way, right? But when you get out of its way, it still looks beautiful on a content reel.
The amount of information that there is now versus when we were probably trying to find it.
Barbecue was a mystery.
Yeah,
it was an oral tradition.
It was, and there was a lot more gatekeeping back then. There's a term in barbecue called shigging. So shigging is when you basically go over to your neighbor and you just kind of make conversation all while checking out the supplies, trying to pick up on a little secret here and there. And now, I mean, everything's a paid gate. So you can literally, and I mean, I'm guilty. We give the classes, but that's why with KCBS, it's kind of like I call that the barbecue lottery now. Once you're on the level, each judging table only gets 6 boxes. So if there's 100 contestants, you're never going to be on the same table with guys. So it really matters what table you hit. So it starts to be a little bit of luck, whereas World Foods that we were talking about, you get to turn in cards that say, you're trying to, in KCBS, you got to hit the sweet profile. That sweet, savory, where in World Foods, you get to go outside the box and like tell them what you're trying to do. So if it's a raspberry chipotle, you can say that.
And how did you get plugged into World Foods?
When it came to Indy, I saw it in Houston, and that's just farther. I try to keep it. I mean, I've been to Colorado for some shows, but 8 hours, we try to keep it in there. When they came to Indy,
because you have to like take your smoker with you.
yeah,
and
I
like
mean, we pull a trailer, whole bit. I mean, it's a full production. I mean, it really is. But when they came to Indy, I'm like, we need to try to qualify because you got to get a golden ticket to qualify. So we went to Louisville, Famous Dave's, our first ever World Foods cook, and won it down there, dude.
Wow.
I was blown away because it was some KCBS studs. And so, I mean, it was pretty intimidating. And the setup, so we usually all have these nice, big, cozy trailers, and they roll us up and give us a 10 by 10 and like, you're in the lot. That's it. And I'm like, bro, this is where I'm from right here. So we won that one. We qualified. And then we made the finals last year. So now we were automatically back in for this year. And we've actually picked up a few exemptions. So I think we're in till it's out of Indy for right now.
Oh, wow. And how long is it like said how long they've renewed in Indy for?
I heard it was a 5-year contract.
Oh, so you're chilling a little bit.
I'm hoping.
But then
you
you still got to come and produce on the day, though.
Yeah, and we still go cook, like we cooked Indy this year when we got runner-up to one of our good buddies out of Atlanta, another Royal Oak guy, Deep South. He'll be at both events, Randall, stud. And then we're cooking Detroit, too.
Nice.
for me, because if you can't win another golden ticket, they just roll down. So if I were to win it, second place didn't have one, he'd get it. But it's just keeping the blade.
Well,
sharp.
we had Colin Hilton.
Yeah, Hilton.
We had him on the show, and like just learning about the process of World Food Championship is just crazy. Like, especially because if let's say you win live fire, then like you gotta go compete, like, and you could have to make like a dessert or whatever, like a main dish, you know, and not have live fire.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of interesting.
We're qualified for barbecue, so there's barbecue and live fire are separate entries. So to get an invite to the live fire was really special. I know for me and Randall both, because we're stepping. The way I came up cooking was live fire, both in how I started. Plus, I grew up in Salisbury, like we talked about, camping and dude in the woods, and we always primitive camped back then and cooked over fire. So, I mean, it's literally, I've been training for this my whole life, man.
I love it.
You know, I've got a quick question for you, Dave. Yeah. So this is maybe my perception, but I grew up in Evansville and south into Kentucky and Tennessee. There's a pretty robust barbecue culture.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Owensboro, man.
Yeah, Owensboro, but then once I moved up to Bloomington to go to college, and then up in Indy, there were some great barbecue places, but I didn't find that same culture, and not only that, but the consumer base. It wasn't the same. Barbecue places struggled. So do you find that, and are you seeing that getting better?
I mean,
Central Indiana.
So when I think about when we started and who's left, there's only a few restaurants that didn't roll through or past us. And it's kind of the same with food trucks. And I think it's the same thing, man. Like, I know there's a guy, and there's no names, but in Bloomington right now, he's got really popular, but he's cheating and he's starting to get exposed for it a little bit. You know,
what do you mean by cheating?
So like bagged stuff, you can buy brisket from a bag or pork from a bag. Just like you can get your mac and cheese ready to dump out.
I mean, I guess I could like go start a food, just like warm all the stuff up in the back.
Yeah, and there's a difference, man. That's like if you were going to have a concession stand somewhere, you could pull that off all day. Track food, you know what I'm saying? There's a time and a place. But for us, the way it hit was that the people were responding to the authentic, real, and that was we never reheat. I will give away food to neighbors when we come home every time. I'm never bringing yesterday's barbecue to today's service ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, bro. And that's the way it has to be.
I was talking to my girlfriend's dad, and his name's Steve. He sometimes listens to the show. So Steve said his dream retirement gig would be either like brewing beer or having like a barbecue truck. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of like average Indiana, like retired guy who's like, oh, I'd love to just smoke meats all day. What would you say to those guys that are like maybe on the edge or thinking about it, that maybe they want to be the like in the local Kroger parking lot till selling out? How could they get from an idea to making that happen?
You know, it's kind of one of them things like anything else where you have to, I think, be put in a position to not have losing be an option. Yeah. You know, I built block walls and patios and koi ponds. I'm talking like physical labor, you know, all my life before that. And the food trucking was as relentless, if not more, and paired with the barbecue, cooking it that way. I mean, it was a good thing that I was in my early 30s. I got in pretty bad health. In the later end of my 40s, I got really heavy. Recently, I've dropped 80 pounds.
Hey, let's go.
And I'm feeling great again, and it's rekindling that. But it's so hard, man.
I mean, if you work with barbecue all day, like I would be heavy, man. It's like you gotta sample the product there.
Yeah.
You do have to taste. I mean, legitimately.
Well, and Bryan, you started in the brewery kind of space, right? Well, your first dip into alcohol, right?
Sure.
Like, weren't you working with the brewery, and then they got the still, and you're like, you know what, I want to go dabble around with this thing.
My introduction to the company was through the brewery, through Quaffon Brewing Company. But really, I think what speaks to kind of what Dave does and what brought me to it, and you mentioned the word relentless. All of us have to be relentless in our pursuit to for vocation. But if you have the motivation within you that's driving you towards something to your point about your girlfriend's father, if you have a passion burning, it makes that hard work way more satisfying, but also easier to find the motivation to get it done.
And I think you you can like see it in people where it's like if they're just like always consuming bourbon or barbecue content, or they're like always learning. Like he tracks it, like he has a meat journal. Like he does the thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why. He's like, yeah, that would be like kind of my dream retirement gig. I'm like, man, like I am nowhere near the level of interest to like have the full meat journal, like, because he gets up at like 2 a.m. or whatever, like throws this on, smokes this thing, he has one of the drawer ones, you know what I'm like, it's like a cabinet looking one.
Yeah.
It's super cool. I have like a Traeger. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily like the long terms, it's like a small little tailgater one, but like I get out there and throw some wings on it every now and again.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Nate, with the platform you have through Get In, I think this maybe is the moment that we should decide that the rest of Indiana and central Indiana, that we are going to, we're going to boost the barbecue culture and the whiskey culture here, and really highlight people like Dave that are creating great barbecue in the state. Because again, the consumer base, I think around here from what I've seen, is used to, kind of some subpar barbecue. Now, again, there are some great pitmasters. There's some great barbecue, but it's like you go to Kansas City, or you go to St. Louis, or you go down to Owensboro. I mean, everybody knows barbecue, and they talk about it and they think about it, and it's planned for all the major events. And I think it's not quite the same up here in central Indiana. I think we should change that.
That's interesting. I like that. And I like hearing that, because if you're not like thinking about that, or you just like growing up around central Indiana or northern Indiana, it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's some barbecue joints. But yeah, like you go, or like Austin, Texas. Oh, yeah. It's like, man, every corner, there's like 10. It's like you have to like create a what is it called? Like a bucket list of barbecue when you visit Austin.
Yeah, dude, they start. I mean, those lines start at 4 a.m. Place will open at noon or 11 or 10, and 4:30, you're 30th in line. Dude.
And people drive 3-4 hours to go stand in that line.
Yeah. Or like Memphis, and they have good barbecue too.
Oh,
yeah.
We need to up the barbecue game. Well, and that's a little bit about like kind of your guys' the way that you started like partnering up on these two events that are coming up, is to increase a little bit of that here in central Indiana. And I guess you call Brown County Southern or Central Indiana?
It's Southern Indiana.
It's
South Central.
South Central. There you go. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Roots Realty Co., the absolute best real estate team here in central Indiana. Listen, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you need people who actually care about our Indiana community. That's Tyler and Max over at Roots Realty. These guys aren't just slinging houses, they're building communities, helping people find homes that actually fit their lives and making the whole process way less stressful. They're not some big corporate machine. They're real people who know Indiana inside and out. Whether you're a first-time buyer, an investor looking for your next deal, or just trying to get top dollar for your home, these guys have the expertise and the hustle to make it happen. They're out here doing great work, not just in Indianapolis, but all across central Indiana and beyond. So if you're in the market, or even if you're thinking about it, hit up Tyler and Max at Roots Realty Co. and they'll take good care of you. Check them out at rootsrealty.co or meet them in person at one of their upcoming investor masterclasses. More details on their website, rootsrealty.co. Let's get back into it. So talk to us about what you guys have coming up in June, and then what we can kind of dive into what we have going on in July.
Sure. So into June 27th, 28th, the main event's on the 28th. We're having the Charred Truth, so a little play on char of barbecue and Hard Truth, and it's going to be a live fire qualifying round for the World Food Championship. So Dave was talking about that golden ticket. So the winner of this event will get that golden ticket to compete at the World Food Championship.
How many different pitmasters will be there?
I think there's 9.
8. I think it's 8 of us.
8?
There's 8. Yeah, and Dave's gonna.
Oh, you're competing.
Yep.
But that was where you said if you win, it rolls down to whoever gets second.
Yeah.
But that one's just kind of like for bragging rights too.
Right,
It's like,
right.
buddy. So you're bringing 8 pitmasters together in June. What, 28th?
June 28th on our property, Brown County, Hard Truth in Brown County. So if you've been there, I know, and post some content. So that beautiful terrace area that goes down to the stage. So we're going to be setting up the pits down there. It's going to be a full day full of awesome live music, great barbecue, some competition, a lot of great cocktails, a lot of great samplings of Hard Truth whiskey.
Where are the pitmasters coming from?
All over. There's some international. I think there's one guy.
2 from Texas, 1 from Georgia. The Michelle O'Gwen is from Tennessee. Oklahoma, and there is an international. Well, Al's from Argentina, but Al's doing demos. He's not competing.
Right. I think it's Al's son. It's going to be there that day.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we did the Zoom the other day, and I was looking at the faces in that Zoom, just like swimming with juggernauts.
Well, and I think that some people are like, oh, you were just like, this is like a regional barbecue competition. This is like an Indiana. It's like, no. And I think that it goes back to your original point where it's like, barbecue's already like, it's like could be bigger in central Indiana.
Absolutely.
But like, so now you're bringing in some of the best pitmasters from around not only the U.S., but also like some international inspiration there to Nashville, Indiana, to Hard Truth.
Yeah.
We're going to have like a day of bourbon, live music, barbecue.
Yeah, and the ticket, and the cool thing is you're not just going to get to watch them cook. You're going to get to eat their barbecue.
Which is, do you get to sample at World Food Championship?
There is a sampling portion.
Yeah, it's more like they'll have demos around. There
But
is
it's
a
not
ton
like
of
the
samples.
actual...
Not
the
like
actual-
this.
So this is like you're cooking for people.
Yeah, what we might do at World Foods is give a bunch of trays to a place and they'll serve it. Here, you get to come up to each team's booth and they're going to serve you a People's Choice sample right there. And then you'll vote at the end for which one was the best.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the end of June. There's going to be 2 levels of tickets, and you can buy your tickets at hardtruth.com. Yeah.
Then we're all teaming up at the end of July. But we're taking our team down to Brown County July 25th, 26th. So the 25th, I don't know, you know this. 25th, we're hosting a bar takeover at Moontown the night before. So we did the Small Town Showdown bracket challenge where we were finding the best small town across the state of Indiana. And we had over 100,000 votes.
Wow.
And it was bracket style, like 64 small towns all competed out. Nashville won.
Wow.
And the reward was, hey, whoever wins it, we'll open a $1,000 bar tab at your Main Street bar. Yeah. And so Nashville won. We know the crew at Moontown, so we're gonna go there and shoot a video of like how to spend $1,000 at a loa local.
That's awesome.
Then we're waking up Saturday. We're doing ooey gooey cinnamon rolls for breakfast.
You're going to need those after the night before and then the big day.
Right. And so we got to get a solid base layer. Ooey gooey. Is that what the place is called?
It is, man. Those things will put, you better pencil in a nap.
There you go,
for
right?
post ooey gooey.
We're going ooey gooey. And then I think noon, everything kicks off the Bourbon and Barbecue Fest with Hard Truth. It's not the World Food Championship, like that event. This is just fun, right?
Yeah. There's a sanctioning body that I actually won it twice before I moved on and went on to the board. It's called the Kentuckiana Barbecue Pitmasters. So that was actually kind of the breakout that got Royal Oak's attention because it's a regional. There's teams from Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and it's a great group of guys. And in 2020, it almost died. So that's when I started hosting a couple of events to try to keep it going. And that's why when we were talking, it originally started, I was trying to get them to come and do some drinks out at the lake. And they were like, bro, we're kind of hovering on this weekend. Why don't we just bring the party here? And I came and saw the terrace and was like, all in.
That's the thing where it's like, if you show up and see Hard Truth, it's built to host cool events.
Oh my gosh.
Like the whole shtick is like you have the stage and the terrace and just the whole property.
Just saying it's a vibe does no justice. It really, you have to be there.
Yeah, for sure. So this was an event that was already going on.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like moved and shifted into the Bourbon and Barbecue Fest.
Yeah, well, I had started, it was called Hog Days. We started at Boggs, and we just outgrew the peninsula down there. So we came to Fairfax for a year to try to get back into the Bloomington for a bigger crowd. And that was kind of it. I was like, man, we need a show to go with this because you had people kind of coming down to see the teams, but it was missing the big show element. So when, Everett and everybody brought it up, man, I was like, this is a grand slam. Dude, I had 17 teams already signed up, and I said, let me call these 17 teams, make sure it's okay that we move, and not a person hesitated. And 2 days later, we had 30 teams, which we set as our capacity for year one because we just want to make sure logistically it's good for everybody.
Wait, I did not know there's 30 teams
31. 31.
Oh, so we flexed. We let someone up.
Well, Randall Bowman he wanted to come from Georgia, and I just, man, I couldn't imagine telling that guy no. He's a legend. Deep South Smokers.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we made a spot for Randall.
Obviously, we had to have
325 acres. We cornered out a little piece for him.
Where are you gonna fit 31 barbecue teams?
Yeah, up in the back lot. So, and that's, I tell you what's going to be really cool, man. We're doing something with this. It's going to be special. Usually you go to these shows and it's just kind of overwhelming of how to meander around. So there's going to be a ton to do on the terrace, but there's also going to be a VIP type ticket where, kind of similar to a barrel house tour, we're going to do tours of the pit area. So we'll get somebody from our group to lead a tour around, and they'll introduce them to teams, show them the different kinds of smokers, see the teams in action a little bit. You get a guided tour. So one of the most popular things that's ever said when you're out is, man, I've really been wanting to try one of these. I just can't get into it, It's that. And I think that, once they see that and kind of see how friendly everybody is and willing to share, it'll ease some things. So we've already kind of talked. I think we're going 60 teams next year. We're going to just double down because
we might need to make it just an even 64, like a bracket style, like March Madness, right? Come on, 60. Yep. So you already had 31 this year. It's going to be this crazy experience. We're coming down. We're shooting content. I'm excited to. First off, be down in Brown County, and I feel like everyone, listeners, this is for you. Everyone says I need to go to Brown County. Like we should put that on the list. We need to do that. But it's the final nudge. This is it. The final nudge to send people book your overnight, because it's bourbon and barbecue, right? The emphasis on the bourbon. Book your overnight. Come down, hang out. There's live music from noon until 9.
Yeah, and I think Justin Wells is rounding out the day.
5 killer bands.
He's killer. Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah, and we're gonna also there's 2 tiers of tickets. I will tell you that you're gonna have a great time no matter what tickets you get. But that VIP, the VIP level ticket, those lounges that we set up, the VIP tent with the tastings for our Hard Truth spirits, are going to be pretty special. We are actually going to be releasing a new whiskey also that weekend. So it'll be the first time we actually did a Mizunara finished whiskey.
What is that?
So Mizunara is a Japanese oak. Like a lot of things from Japan, there is just some magic in that wood. And I will tell you that whiskey, it's done now. So I know exactly what the final iteration of it tastes like. It's going to be stupendous. So not only
whoa.
Word.
He said stupendous.
It's crazy. So this is for people who haven't been out, that little nudge. We've got 325 acres. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. A lot of room to spread out. Everybody thinks that Brown County and Nashville, like Nashville proper, is a little bit kind of congested. But man, Hard Truth, we've got walking trails everywhere. It's just a great place to stop and land, and we'll have tours and great barbecue. It's going to be an awesome day.
That VIP tent too, just doubled down with that release. I didn't even know that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the cigar lounge too, right?
And Grubbs that we were talking about earlier, James Barbecue Grubbs, the rightful heir to the crown of the sausage world championship. He's going to be making that sausage and sampling it out at that same VIP area. So you'll get to try that.
That's awesome.
That very recipe.
I believe there's some barrel rolling too. There's going to be some whiskey barrel rolling.
Yeah,
going
I see
on.
bourbon barrel roll races, axe throwing, and the cornhole tournament for money.
Yeah.
Which come on. Yeah. This seems like we're gonna have a good time. I'm pretty pumped about it. I'm not pretty pumped. I'm very pumped about it. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna be down shooting content. This will be our first company offsite outing. We have 4 full-time employees now, or 3, including me. And we're taking all the part-timers too. So it's going to be a good time.
That's awesome.
So we're going to have some fun down there, Brown County. This is Friday night, the 25th. But then the Bourbon and Barbecue Fest is Saturday, the 26th.
And there are limited tickets. So, I know a lot of people are trying to, get their schedules right. But go, you go to hardtruth.com and the tickets really aren't crazy as far as price-wise. I think we've kept it pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's very fair for the experience.
Even I think the VIP ticket, at the top is the most expensive ticket you could buy is $60 or $70 or something like that.
$75.
I think it's $75, and it's you get drinks, we like to sample, you get to do the whole thing, the whole experience. But I think to get in the door, it's $10.
Right.
I think the minimum one. There's something for everyone down there. Yeah. And I will say, stay the night. It's going to be fun. We're going to be having a good time.
And we're family friendly too.
Yeah.
And so it's, kids are welcome. There's a kid's price ticket. But some people think about distilleries and they think about just an adult experience. But really what we built at Hard Truth is for anyone who wants to come. So
Yeah. It'll be a great time.
I heard Mike McLeod talking about it. That's the founder of World Foods, and he said he was talking to you guys up at Indy, and that you were excited to come back this year and wanted to do something special at the distillery. And he said, I've got to go down and see it, and we'll come down and talk. And he said, I'm a Tennessee boy, so I kind of had an expectation of what a distillery should be. And he said it far exceeded it. And I think you have to see it to believe it. I mean, if there is a hidden gem, if it could still be qualified as that, if you haven't been, I mean, once you get there and see, how expansive it is, man, it is a very special place.
I mean, I tell everyone, I rave about it because it does feel, whatever your place of choice is on the Bourbon Trail or you're down in Kentucky or wherever, and you have this feeling that's going to be very kind of takes your breath away a little bit when you drive up to it. You get the same, as soon as you come through those gates, and you're driving up there and you see it and you're like,
the first barrel house right there at the
Yeah.
hill, right as you come in.
and you're like, holy smokes. And it's so interesting to me because I've been to around Indiana and you can go into some distilleries that are maybe smaller and you're so that you have this perception of Indiana distilleries of it's going to be a building with a still and they're going to be making some small batch craft cocktails or whatever. And then you go to Hard Truth and it's oh, holy, this is the real deal.
We're really fortunate to have that piece of land and that property, and the vision that my partners had for the experience there is pretty incredible. And then on top of it, now our whiskey is, I've got our 6-year rye whiskey, which will also be featuring at the June event. Our 6-year sweet mash rye, we just released that this past Saturday. And, we're winning competitions, global international competitions with our whiskey. So, there's this great, robust thing that's happening in the world of whiskey in Indiana that really the world's starting to take note of. So we're proud to be a part of that.
I gotta say that too. And I'm sorry, but that 6-year, I've not gotten the pleasure to get. I'm looking very forward into getting more into your stuff. That 6-year is probably the best whiskey I've ever had.
Oh, man,
I'm not
you so
joking.
much.
No, my dad, we grew up, my dad was a whiskey guy. I mean, that was all he drank. And he took me to Lynchburg tours. I got pictures of me 5 in those, walking those tours. And I'm telling you, man, that is some of the smoothest, easiest drinking whiskey that I think I've ever had. And I was a bartender for several years. I mean, I food and beveraged in the winters when I wasn't landscaping. Kilroy's on Kirkwood.
Oh,
shout out.
So you could tell some stories.
Some I could tell and some I shouldn't. Probably.
Yeah, right. There we go. Well, gentlemen, this has been a super fun episode. We have some fun segment questions to round out here at the end. Obviously, when we do have to talk about. We talk about hidden gems. We're going to get to that in just a second. Before we get there, Dave, if you had to smoke one thing for the rest of your life, what would you smoke?
A truly good Wagyu brisket has never broke my heart, man. It's never hurt my feelings. So.
That's solid. I mean, you can't go wrong with good brisket.
Yeah.
It's just, it always hits. Brian, are you a smoker?
So starting out, Dave was talking about the primitive pits. So my dad and his buddies, when they were going to do barbecue, they got cinder blocks. And they built a pit, which is basically just a cube. And then they had a piece of sheet metal on top and they had some grates. And so that's how they made barbecue. Mm-hmm. So that's how I grew up starting to make barbecue. Then, of course, there are all these fancy smokers that hit the market. Currently in my backyard, I don't have a covered space for a stick smoker, although that's my... You're burning actual
wood.
Oh, yeah.
Logs.
Okay.
But you have to have a lot of airflow in order to do that correctly. So right now I've got a ceramic Kamado style smoker, which is, what I love to do is with whiskey too. So the first stills that we had were really difficult to work with. Right? They were not easy to work with.
Yeah.
If you can figure out how to make great whiskey on some very difficult skills, by the time you get the Cadillac or whatever, you're golden, right? So same thing. The Kamado smokers are difficult for me because I'm a perfectionist to not get that over creosoted, over smoked flavor on them. Because you got to choke down the temperature. It's the whole thing. So I've been fiddling with it. I finally got it. my travels, we distribute Hard Truth down in Texas. So the first time I finally went down there, I was so sick of all my Texas friends telling me how good their barbecue was. I was like, I'm sure it's fine. Well, it's great.
Turns out it's a little bit better than fine.
And especially like beef ribs and brisket. I mean, and so when I came home from that first trip, I was determined to, absolutely perfect the beef ribs and the brisket. So yeah, I've got it down in my backyard, but I can only make like this much.
Yeah, for dinner, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's from both of you. What advice would you have for, let's say there were some fathers that got a smoker, like their kids or, whoever were like, let's get dad a smoker, but maybe like doesn't quite know how to be an expert on it yet. What advice do you have for people that are just getting into smoking meats?
Patience, man. It's better to run low temperatures. And, that's the one of the barbecue things. What time will it be done is when it's done, and that's truly, it's a lot of by feel. It's not something that you can hammer through and rest. I think it is like once you get to the level, we got some techniques, the Texas crutch, wrapping in foil, you can speed stuff up. But in the beginning, man, just take your time. Take your time with it.
The Texas crutch. I love that. Any advice for barbecuers?
You got to start with the best piece of meat that you can find. I mean, that's one of it holds true with cooking, making whiskey. You can have the best equipment and the best technique, but if you start with a bad product to start with, or go cheap on that, it's hard to make good barbecue. So I always splurge for a nice piece of meat, and you really, especially when you're picking out a brisket, you really got to take your time. If you're only making one, and it's really important that it's perfect, to kind of find that right one that's got the right flavor.
How do you know the right one? Like what would advice?
I'm gonna let the expert talk about that.
I'll tell
How do
you,
you
man,
identify the right meat?
Honestly, I'll give you one that's pretty good that I can't remember who told me this, but especially like a brisket. If you pick up a brisket and it doesn't flop at all, it's kind of like a New York pizza or something. You want one that does flop, that feels flimsy. And I'll promise you that one's going to cook and be a lot more tender. But also, a good fat. You don't want one that's completely fat, but you don't want one that has no fat. And just like all that, though, it's just as important at like the wood. I heard Bryan on another podcast talking about wood grown on two different hillsides that could give you a different effect, just by the separation in the rings. And
it's an ingredient. It's an ingredient in whiskey.
Yep.
And it's an ingredient in barbecue. I mean, it's not just what you cook with. It's actually an ingredient.
And the alchemist would know, like airflow, all that mix, it is a movement, man. The whole thing. If you don't have enough air, you'll have thick, chalky creosote smoke. If you have too much air, your fire's going to rage and burn everything. So it's a...
What's the most forgiving meat to like start barbecuing? Whereas like if you were like, you're going to experiment, you're going to try like, buying the Wagyu brisket's a good idea in theory until you like screw up like a very expensive piece of meat.
Pork butt. I think pork butt.
Start there.
Yeah. Boston butt. It's the names always get, people a butt, they think a ham almost, but it's a shoulder. And there's a picnic shoulder, usually has skin on, but a Boston butt is trimmed down to, and that's what you see in the grocery store the most. And that sucker, man, if you do, like I said, go low and slow. Usually, I'll tell you the big secret to cooking a good pork butt, about 4 hours in the smoke, right? Uncovered with your rub on it, in a pan or out of pan. I don't have a preference. I cook in pan, so I catch all the drippings. But then you wrap it. And I know there's a lot of old school guys that are like, nah, you finish over the fire the whole way. But a braise is to steam a meat or like you roast in that crock pot kind of technique. So once you have that bark set, if you can touch the bark and it doesn't come off on your finger, it's set. And truly at that point, you're not really penetrating much more smoke. So as far as that flavor getting pounded into it, you're good to wrap. And then you save all that juice. And when you shred it, reintroduce that juice, buddy. That's the money shot.
Wow, he just gave it. He just revealed how to. I'm gonna impress some people using that technique. Gentlemen, we've come to the final portion of the show where I ask the same 3 questions that I ask everyone who sits in the chair.
Can I tell you, I've already forgotten what those 3 questions are. So now in my brain, I'm like, oh crap!
We got to make sure you don't use the same one again.
I won't.
Okay, so first off, let's go, Dave.
Yeah.
What's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
Just Hoosier hospitality is a real thing, man. And growing up, spent my whole life here, and I've been fortunate to travel the country and kind of see how it is in other neighborhood stores. And I don't think I'd trade this place. I have moved away and came back just because Southern Indiana's got my heart, man.
And I think to that point with Southern Indiana, I think that there's a perception on people who maybe haven't spent a lot of time in anywhere other than Indianapolis, or maybe from between Indianapolis and Chicago. The hardwood forests of Indiana are just shockingly beautiful. You know, same thing. I've got to go a lot of different places and see some unbelievable scenic beauty, whether it's Colorado or out west. But when you're standing in Hoosier National Forest, like in the Charles C. Dean Wilderness area, and you're staring up at 100-foot tall trees, and that canopy is so far up there, and there's all this environment between there and here, it's magical, man. There's no other place like it.
I love that. Well, that brings us to our next question. This is the question of all questions. So what is a hidden gem in Indiana?
I grew up thinking that all pizza was square cut, cracker crust, right? And I've learned since then that was kind of migrated southward from Milwaukee and Chicago, that style of pizza making. And it was really designed to keep people drinking at the bar. They'd make these pizzas and set out these little squares, and people would grab the squares. It didn't even cost anything, right? Almost like pretzels. And so
those are the good old days.
There is a group of pizza places in Evansville, and there's somebody's name and then the word Una. So it's Steve's Una, Huff's Una, Spanky's Una, Covert Una Pizza, right? And these are shotgun buildings. You can't sit inside them, carry out only or delivery. But there's one that's near and dear to my heart, Steve's Una Pizza, right off of Washington Avenue Washington Avenue in Evansville, Indiana. And it is my favorite pizza. In fact, every time I go back home, I go and get like 4 or 5 of them, half baked, no cut, wrap them in foil and stick them in my freezer. That way, if I need a pizza, and that's obviously it's better if you get it there. But yeah,
wow,
Steve's Una Pizza,
Steve's Una, Spanky's Una Pizza, Una 2 Pizza.
Yeah, Una 2 is one of the originals. Rockabar is a great one.
Wow.
Rockabar is one of the original Evansville pizzas. Taroni's.
Wow,
Bucket list update.
Yeah,
in progress.
Yeah,
Steve's Una Pizza.
I love all the other ones, and I worked at Taroni's, and I love the folks at Rockabar. They make all of those pizzas are great. But I've just got to say, as a kid, you know, coming downstairs on Thursday night, and my dad would come home with Steve's Una Pizza, always in paper. Just rip the paper open, always some pepperoncini peppers on top. You rip them and squirt that juice over top of the pizza.
Let's go there now.
Let's do it.
Let's get in the car. Let's ride. I have to ask Dave, what is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Salisbury as a town is a pretty cool place. You got, Yoho's that we talked about right downtown. It's been remodeled, but they kept all of the foundational pieces.
What do you know about the history of the Yoho General Store?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, Cotton Yoho owned it, and I don't know who originated it, but him and his wife, and it was a family ran. They were just farmers there. They lived literally down the street.
What a name.
Yeah, Cotton Yoho.
Cotton Yoho. What
and
a
Pearl.
guy.
And Pearl.
Cotton and Pearl.
Cotton and Pearl.
Right? It doesn't get better than that.
No.
And then, you've been to the Tulip Trestle. Is technically a Bloomfield address, but it's 5 miles from. See, we called it Cotton's, and that was what it was called all those years.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, so people that know, we went down there, and I think that at first glance, like people think, oh, this is just some small town, like rundown store. But then recently, and I don't know how long ago, but ownership changed. I think the Cook Community Foundation somehow got involved there. And it's like a historic, like renovated, remodeled, really nice place.
Yeah. They kept the floors. They kept like the wood stove. And then they kept the lineup, the same classic food. And, and that's what, as kids, if your parents took you there, where there were 2 things you got from Cotton, a glass Coke bottle and a scoop of ice cream. And so I'm pretty sure, I know you can still get the ice cream. I'd have to check on the
I don't know if they have the
bottle.
glass Coke still, but like, let's say if you were like a Jeeper or like you drove motorcycles, like, go swing down through there, make a trip down to the trestle. The local people, I put something about the Tulip Trestle, and I got some backlash that I didn't talk to locals because it's called the Viaduct.
Yeah, the Viaduct. Some of them swear it's one of the 8 wonders of the world, too. Because for a long time, it was the longest land bridge.
Yeah.
I guess in the world.
But
maybe.
they like the Facebook heroes, like the keyboard warriors, got really upset. Like,
Yeah.
This guy didn't even talk to any locals. Like he's calling it the Tulip Trestle.
It has its own like historical society. So they built. Did you see the? There's like the platform. You can the observation deck. And but dude, Salisbury has done a lot of things. There's a sculpture trail. It's a really cool thing.
We
and they
poured.
Yeah, they do pours. Yep. Jerry Massey is a good friend of mine.
Yeah, we poured aluminum there.
Yeah.
It's you
It's
like
wild.
do the sand
Did
scratch
you go
box.
to the nighttime pour?
No, we
put
didn't
it on your list, dude.
Okay.
The
Wow, that
nighttime
sounds
pour.
awesome.
You need to check it out.
They
That's
have,
a
like-
mile from my house too.
Well,
so-
it's like the middle of July or October. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
when it is.
hot.
But it's like they do a night. They have these huge. Are they called foundries? I think,
Yeah.
or not foundries.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it.
Is that what
Yeah,
the name of them? But they get it. Like they're pouring tons. Like in a year, they bring they bring 25 interns from around the world
Yeah, they
to
house
Greene
them on the
County
property. Yeah.
for the summer to pour aluminum and pour metal. It's crazy.
They're a special breed. Those guys, man, they're hardcore.
They're built different for sure. I love it. That's a great, just Salisbury in general. That's a great. You do have to share what you guys know about the fireworks show. What is it?
Yeah, we were talking about that before we got on air here. So I was telling Dave when he said he was from Salisbury that I had the opportunity to witness a fireworks show in Salisbury on the back of my truck sometime in the late 90s.
Oh boy,
And
the best time.
and
I
it
was probably playing
and-
a lot of music then.
yeah, and I'll never forget that they were like, yeah, this is like, it's kind of put on by the town, but it's right by the fire station. Like, 'cause they would never have everything ready. It was the most incredible fireworks show maybe I've seen anywhere,
and
and
dude,
it was in the middle of the woods in Salisbury.
House parties. So it's a rural area, but when you come into downtown Salisbury, it's a blink and miss at town. But dude, you could walk for probably 5 miles, and it just be party after party after party at every house. They used to say, and I don't know what the metric was, but it was like 25,000 people would come down for this show, dude.
Well, the unofficial count was 40% of the city's annual budget was spent on fireworks.
That's believable.
We can neither confirm or deny that is a true number, but 25,000, like, and to put it in scale, like, I think Salisbury is 8 blocks.
Yeah.
Like the entire town is 8 blocks, maybe. That could be generous.
I mean, the show would go for like 30 minutes, dude, and they would have
awesome.
epic finales too. I mean, it was a good show.
I love that. That's so fun. We might need to do a best fireworks show. Like I might need to do a video and then like say like, honorable mention. I don't know if it's still going because it's not still going anymore. Is
Well,
it?
I love the guys that are at the station now, but Larry Shute was a guy, and that would, if I would name the Hoosier, he's passed on now, but Larry is the guy that got the observation deck built. He was like, we called him the mayor of Salisbury. He was the fire chief forever. Really cool dude. There's a lot of cool Herald Time articles on Larry. You should look him up. When he passed, man, I think it all kind of went down.
I think that we kind of hit a little tangent here at the end, but I love it. So much of what makes rural or small town Indiana great is usually like 1 or 2 or 3 like spark plugs in the community to like make this stuff happen. A 28-year-old, it's like our generation to like link up with and like learn from some of these people like Larry, like go spend time around there. And then, when they transition out, like carry some of these traditions on because it's so cool. And
Legacy.
it's sad to see some of these awesome things fall to the wayside.
That's really interesting. And what I'm thinking about is, sometimes our life now with how fast everything moves and with the information loop, things become very transactional. But just like in that with Salisbury fireworks show, something that's totally unnecessary, unexpected, and unreasonable can really be something that brings a lot of people a lot of joy. There's no reason why they should have done that, right? But it's something that people have talked about and will continue to talk about forever. So I think we should do more things like that.
Yeah. And like Bryan, as soon as you said you'd been like you guys like had just like a deeper connection based on the fact that you both knew this fireworks show from the mid to late 90s. Like that's super cool to me. I love it. Final thing we round out with is this is how I learn about new guests or just hear about people maybe around Southern Indiana that would need to be on our radar. So we'll go Bryan first. Who's a Hoosier that we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
So I thought about, the barbecue space. Who is somebody, because, the barbecue scene in Indiana is very under the radar. And if you start following these national championships and world titles, there's a guy named Albie Ransom, and he's down in Boonville area, Scuffletown Smokers. If somebody asked me today who's the GOAT in Indiana barbecue, it's Albie for sure. I mean, Bill.
What's his name?
Albie, Alby, Albie Ransom.
Albie Ransom in Boonville is the GOAT of Indiana barbecue.
Scuffletown Smoker. So a couple weeks ago, he won the KCBS World Invitational in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm pretty sure that he won the Jack Daniels Invitational last year. So that's a world championship. It's a invitational type thing. So, I mean, and I see him when we go to the American Royal, 900 teams. Who do I see at the t-shirt stand? Albie down there collecting hardware. So
Albie Ransom.
Yep.
Scuffletown Smokers.
Scuffletowns, I think that's isn't that a little region down by the river, I believe?
I never got the full story, but they've got a shirt that says something about it on the back there.
Yeah, I think that used to be what they called one of those river camps, river camp areas down on the Ohio River.
It's him and his dad, man, I'm telling you. And it's, and I always love to see that. Well, and we talk about all of it. When I almost got unmotivated, then we got Royal Oak. My dad passed, and dude, he just missed all the coolest stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it was we talk about that, how, we're still standing on the foundation. Dad was retired from IU, but dude, he never missed a beat. Everybody thought I was losing my mind, going to build the food truck, because the whole family thought, when I said I was going to build the cabin, they thought I'd lost it. But to see Albie and his dad have that, and it's a very common theme at barbecue stuff. A lot of family teams, they're killing it. But that's one that you should keep your eye on.
And what a cool way to spend time with your family, as adults. It's you get together and you're smoking meats and hanging out and going and competing. It's that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right, do we have one?
I'm gonna go with something fresh on my brain, and it's actually a place that you did a little bit of a feature on down in Jasper, Indiana. So Alan, who owns the Schnitzelbank in Jasper, Indiana, they picked a single barrel with us to spend some time down there. I've got I grew up as a little kid. My grandma would take me to Schnitzelbank a couple times a month, and so I grew up going there, right? And we kind of made this connection about our toasted coconut rum that we make at Hard Truth, and was based on my grandmother's coconut cream pie recipe. That was my inspiration, and my grandmother's coconut cream pie recipe was inspired by the Schnitzelbank's coconut cream pie. And so then they're serving that toast coconut rum down there, and we kind of made that full circle. Hadn't even occurred to me until I was sitting there talking with Alan. So I think I'm going to put my person as Alan, the owner of Schnitzelbank. I know they're just getting ready to, they just rehabbed their Glockenspiel, and they're going to have this big grand unveiling. So if you've been to the Schnitzelbank, right up there on the top of the tower, it's almost like if you look at a cuckoo clock and those mechanicals where the figurines dance and go around. So they actually it's this huge, there's only one person in the world who works on those. And so they finally have got it fixed, and they're going to unveil it later this month. And unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town. I won't be able to be there.
So you're telling me the Glockenspiel at the Schnitzelbank in Jasper is going to be back to functional?
It is coming back. I want to say it's June 26th. They're going to do a whole thing down there. But it's just a cool place. Their salad bar, the rest of their food's great too, but every time I go down there, I hammer that salad bar.
Isn't it funny? That's what the recommendation that we got from so many people when we were down there is you have to get the salad bar.
There's 25 handmade cold salads, like cucumber salads and macaroni salads and stuff that everyone is just absolute perfection. So anyways, my person's going to be Alan, for owner Schnitzelbank, for keeping that place going. It's a gym here in Indiana.
Heck yeah, I love it, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on and sharing. We're gonna see y'all. Well, one event in June. What are the dates on that one?
So June 28th is going to be the Hard Truth live fire qualifier round for the World Food Championships. You can get tickets at hardtruth.com. Again, with that one, there's 2 levels of tickets. Both will be great. But definitely the one that's the more expensive is going to come with a lot more tastings of Hard Truth and a lot more intimate time with the pitmasters. Yep.
And then the weekend of July 25th, 26th, We're taking over Brown County, gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much fun. We're going to have the Get Indiana crew down there. We're going to be at Hard Truth. We're at 31 pitmasters squaring off. It's
Gonna
going to
be a smoke show, bro.
We have like tons of live music. It's going to be a great time. We'll see you down there. You can get your tickets on hardtruth.com. We also have an article on Get Indiana. I think Visit Brown County has an article. If you can't find your tickets to this event, you might need to seek help.
Yeah.
There's plenty of opportunities there. We'll see y'all down there. Appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks so much, Nate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.